There seems to be something about Addison Rae. From TikTok to influencer to plus one and to a budding pop star, Addison Rae's entire career has been ridden with controversy, and her music career has been no different. From making a corny dance pop debut and receiving backlash to edging up her image and sound, her rebrand has been stark. Spectators saying, "She's next up. I'll never see it for her. Stop trying to make Addison happen." While some audiences are living for it, others find it inauthentic and try hard. And with a catalog of songs you can count on two hands, some people are already touting her as being here to save pop. And I don't know if y'all are being funny, rage baiting, or dead serious, but today we are going to uncover the real truth and opinions about Addison's controversial pop career. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. And today is the day, folks. We are discussing Addison Rae. I've had a request to do this over the past year, but never really knew how to tackle it. And to be honest, I didn't really want to. Shocker. But I thought it would be perfect to finally discuss her career and her case in my new series, There's Something About, a series where we dissect the music and criticisms of artists on the rise, right? We observe different opinions to begin to maybe form our own. And if I'm being honest, I largely ignored the existence of her pop career. Due to scandal, perception, and only hearing snippets, I transparently haven't been the biggest fan of her online persona for years. And I was not even sure if she was taking her own music career that seriously. So I didn't really want to jump the gun and form of an opinion and make this fleshed out video before there was time to let things settle. But she's been rebranding her sound as of recent. I think now is the time. So I'm here to crack the case. There seems to be something about Addison Rae. What's the verdict on her budding pop career? So comment down below. What do you guys think of Addison Rae's pop career? A TikToker very specifically transitioning into a music space, the trials and tribulations of that, and maybe even reaping success. Hit that subscribe button down below. We are on the road to 100,000 subscribers. Without further ado, let's just get right into the video. So to start off this video, we are going to do a crash course into who Addison Rae is. For those of you guys who don't know, in all of these videos, I will give a brief backstory because I think context is so important. So Addison Rae Easterling was born October 6th, 2000. Raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I was very surprised and shocked to hear she was a Southern girl. Another fact that I was shocked to find out was that she began dancing competitively at 6 years old, traveling the country from competition to competition, and at one point thinking that she wanted to become a professional dancer one day.
Grew up a competitive dancer, so I thought that was going to be something I would do no matter what. And then it kind of, as I was getting older, it became less realistic.
Now, when you essentially read her story, it's almost like her life popped off overnight. And in a way, it did. She moved to Los Angeles to establish her social media career. But prior to that, she attended LSU briefly, studying sports broadcasting for 3 months, a whopping 3 months. And when she began to rapidly gain popularity on TikTok, she dropped out. But she was one of the lucky ducks who got on the app early, beginning her TikTok stint in 2019. A few dance videos, and by dance, specifically TikTok dances, she gained millions of followers. Signing to a talent agency in January 2020, through brand deals and endorsements, her name entered the stream of social consciousness, at least if you were from the age of 9 to 18. She even made a whopping $5 million that year. And after living in a TikTok content house, aka the Hype House,
specific rules, more like standards, we're if you're gonna be in this house, we want hard workers, people that are actually caring about their content.
cringe viral videos.
And if she's not Asian, what are you guys gonna say?
She is Asian.
You don't know that. She could be Korean.
Can I take a picture with you?
Oh yeah, of course. Here, let me do this TikTok really quick. Yeah.
Being spotted as Kourtney Kardashian's 21-year younger playdate, she then decided to transition into acting and music. And at this time, many TikTokers were going into transition. Many of her peers tackling music themselves. And I don't think a lot of people thought that Addison would be the one to raise genuine interest one day. And initially, she didn't. Her first single, Obsessed, released in March 2021, and let's just say its critical reception was not good. I'm obsessed with me. So her team shelved whatever debut they were planning, and they went back to the drawing board. In February 2022, several songs from her unreleased EP leaked onto the internet, and Rae really thought that that would mark the death of her music career that hadn't even really started. But shockingly, people liked it. Like a very niche, I'm not saying everybody, guys, a niche specific group on the internet liked it. And so she ended up releasing her debut EP called AR on August 18th, 2023. The EP landed a spot on the US Billboard Heatseekers chart. But she finally released her first major label single with Columbia Records called Diet Pepsi. And y'all ate this up, being used religiously on Reels, Instagram posts, and TikToks. It was the first time where people didn't care that Addison Rae was on the track. It peaked at number 54 on the Billboard Hot 100, landing her very first entry on that chart, with Charli XCX and Troye Sivan even inviting her to perform at Madison Square Garden during their Sweat tour, gaining her a new type of attention, carving out a niche fan base, with people beginning to see her in a different light. Her second single, Aquamarine, released in October 2024, and her most recent single, High Fashion, released February 2025. Neither of which landed a spot on the Billboard Hot 100 just yet, but there has still been a build-up. Pitchfork writer Megan Garvey said that, quote, Addison's upcoming debut album is one of her most anticipated pop releases of the year. Whoever thought that someone would be saying that? And it seems that she's gaining more publicity, not for the scandals, not for the cringe TikTok dances anymore, but for her music. So what is it about Addison that has converted people, or on the other hand, has people quite turned off? Our main installment in this series is talking about internet pitchforks. Criticisms online that frequently fans and spectators have brought up, and to shed some light on it, right? Because there might be some truth in it if it consistently comes up. So first and foremost, the most low-hanging fruit is the TikTok dilemma. Addison Rae was within the first wave of uberly popular creators, getting famous for doing, well, very little to nothing. Now, I know there were growing frustrations with near talentless teens blowing up and gaining internet fame, right? Little blonde and brunette girls and frat archetypes getting millions of followers from either A, doing the bare minimum, or B, doing dance challenges from creators and getting far more recognition than its originators. And there was an air of cockiness that these creators were perceived to have. I mean, this reminds me of the time when Addison Rae was invited to go onto the Jimmy Fallon show, and they did this TikTok dance challenge. She was not only criticized for it being lackluster, to say the least, but with people actually calling her out and Jimmy Fallon specifically to invite the actual people who made these dances onto the show. Majority of these dancers and these originators of these dancers being Black creators, right? So then there's this dichotomy. It's like the bring it on facet.
Y'all been coming up here for years trying to steal our routines, and we just love seeing them on ESPN. What are you talking about?
I think they were all credited in the original YouTube posting, but it's kind of hard to credit during the show.
But it was giving bring it on. So because TikTokers have such a young audience pool, many brands and established associations have turned to creators like Addison Rae or Charli D'Amelio, which had created uproars in many scenarios, from UFC to NBA All-Star games. People were not happy to see TikTokers in official spaces. Scandals, period, from people theorizing previously that she was a Trump supporter, to sharing All Lives Matter content, which she confirmed she did and apologized, but nevertheless did. Y'all will never learn, do you? So can you blame people like me for being quite apprehensive or turned off by her actions in any capacity? And she also hasn't had the easiest time being welcomed into Hollywood either, as Hollywood has hierarchies. TikTokers being widely and acceptably looked down upon. So being invited into Hollywood parties or events like the Met Gala, A-list red carpets, is not always embraced by fans and not always embraced by celebrities.
Look at this. Okay. All right.
That crowd does not care in the same way about how many Instagram or TikTok followers you have. More so, what's your craft and what do you bring to the table? Why are you in this room? And Addison wanted to legitimize herself, whether by way of acting and singing. So besides a Kardashian cosign, it has still been an uphill battle to be taken seriously. And that's been the entire reality of her career. It's not like she even started off as a TikTok artist, right? She simply started off as a TikToker, dancing on the internet and in a content house. Considering how new of a phenomenon this was, you cannot blame audiences for not taking her seriously or for building a perception, something that she's also played into. So I personally feel like this internet pitchfork or this critique is something that she is just going to have to fight through. And it might be something that will haunt her forever. Now, as time goes on, should audiences either decide to move on or let her be? Sure, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like, life goes on. But if she wants to turn spectators into listeners, she's gonna have to take her craft seriously. And I think that's the base point. Despite her maybe even actually having dance talent prior to TikTok, TikTok watering that down, it doesn't reward art craft, but rather like gratification, viral trends, things that are easier to do and replicate. So people are going to have to be reintroduced into that. So the next biggest critique and I think focal point that people have honed in on is her sound. So we all know that she's not a vocalist. This dress so tight, you can't even speak. Okay, neither is really like 70% of the pop stratosphere right now. And that's not her main push. And to be very fair, like, pop music, the vocals have never really been the main focal point, but rather the catchiness, aesthetic, and the moves. So I can't fully hold that against her. Her sound, though, has developed more into this dance pop, electro, synth pop space. While she cited inspirations like Lady Gaga, Charli XCX, Sophie, FKA Twigs, and Kalila, hearing those names alone tells me where she wants her sound to live. Now, we mentioned her songs, several of her songs, but let's talk about them. Let's dive into them a bit deeper. Dipping into her first single, Obsessed, I'm going to be quite frank. The self-indulgent lyrics were off-putting because she was singing it. Obsessed with me as much as you. All right, it goes into the whole vanity of TikTokers. But as for vocals, her voice doesn't sound bad, but very smoothed out. At least to me, a lack of personality or conviction. With me too. It felt very empty. It felt very bland. Some sass or attitude in your voice can go a long way with a track like this. No real vocal personality, just another TikToker making solo music. And similar qualities come up in her first EP. It just sounded to me like she was missing personality. My legs to die for. He's what I want, I could just cry. Introduce you to people you never know. And I'm sorry, no matter how much people were like, oh, I love that you're bringing back the 2010s pop sound and like convincing this isn't that bad. To me, I don't just want to listen to music and think, oh, this isn't that bad. I want to listen to it and like it. And genuinely enjoy it. And I think sometimes you guys give passes to people because you don't expect much from them. And then that leads to overhyping or prematurely hyping something when somebody needs a bit more skin in the game. And we'll talk about this more. Then with Diet Pepsi in 2024, we took a bit of a 180. There was a euphoric type chorus, airy vocals. Now, I personally was not bit by the Diet Pepsi bug, and it's not because like I didn't want to like it. I just don't overly expose myself to Instagram Reels and TikToks. It just didn't hit me in that way. Not a bad track. I didn't feel much about it. It was cool. However, this does not take away from the slew of comments that praised her work in Surprise. Some people saying, I wish I could go back to 2019 and tell myself in 5 years I'd have Addison Rae on loop every day. My fault, girl. I was unfamiliar with your game. This song has no business being this good. OMFG. That comment had 31,000 likes. Someone said, it's like if Marilyn Monroe, Britney, and Lana had a baby. And I actually saw a lot of comments saying she's like a Britney Spears mixed with Lana Del Rey. And very quickly, I'm going to need us to stop immediately referencing established artists and stars with new artists, especially when they don't have a discography big enough to start those comparisons, especially with Britney Spears. Like, I know that she has set the standard for this pop generation. Don't get me wrong. When you have been some sort of like blueprint for the 2000s archetype of a pop star, that's natural. But can we give it a rest? Give it a rest, I beg.
As someone who's been compared to Britney Spears,
everywhere basically begging you to play Britney in the biopic.
Yeah, there's been a lot of Britney Spears comparison. Would you ever be down to like play her in a biopic?
Madonna, Britney look, you know.
Like I've iterated in previous videos, it will be so important for these ladies to carve out their own identity. But even her, she's timid in like accepting that compliment, but she uses Britney as a reference often. All of you guys have to do this. Like, do we have to start this early? Now, on the other spectrum, I've seen others say that Addison Rae is giving Selena Gomez. Soft vocals, okay voice, but kind of this moody, atmospheric tone. Fetish and good for you-esque tracks. And I could definitely hear that.
I just wanna look good for you, good for you.
It's back to a sound that you kind of created. You kind of created this whole like whisper pop melancholy type of thing.
I think that's even more of like an honest comparison than like going to Britney and Madonna and Lana Del Rey. But regardless of how I feel or how the quote haters feel, there's two totally different ends of the spectrum. I mean, the song has over 300 million streams on Spotify. So like, no matter what anyone wants to say, people were digging the track, and you can't take that away from her. Now, Aquamarine was a far shift from Diet Pepsi, and a risky one. A non-cookie cutter track, and this is where I was like, you know what? I can kind of respect her taking some risks here. It gives us early 2000s Devil Wears Prada fashion show runway tees. Again, a lot of sporadic movement throughout the music video. We have some concert dance moments. I do think that this song could be like a really nice club track. Blue lights, dark atmosphere, etherealness. I did like the essence of this song. It sounded quite different to me from any track that I've heard in the mainstream recently. Now, her most recent single, High Fashion, which came out in February 2025, being this quiet, stormy, slower electro track. Right, electro pop. I like the chorus mixed with this production and the addictive bridge. But if I'm being honest, I do think that this is actually her strongest single this far, but it hasn't received the same attention as Diet Pepsi, for example. Now, does her music truly push the envelope from a sonic perspective? To me, not fully. You can hear like this reminiscence of other artists in here, hence the many comparisons that are being thrown out. But I do think that she's taking risks creatively for her. Right? And I do think that's important in getting closer to people really being able to see the creative vision and to take you seriously as an artist. Now, vocally and tonally, she's not as controversial as a Tate McRae. I think her vocals kind of blend in. If I were to listen to her on a track off rip, would I think that it's Addison Rae? Maybe not. So there's still, to me, a little that's differentiating her from maybe her inspirations at this moment. But I'm seeing some seeds being planted here. Now, while I picked up on her sound evolution, it's her adaptation or adoption of light, airy, falsetto vocals, creating this sonic atmosphere of floating. And I think that's a nice space to live in. It's easy to digest, it's euphoric in nature, and there's like this phrase singing, talking that you can get away with in this day and age of pop music. So her sound has taken, I think, a nice evolution here. But there's still some ways to go. And to dive a little bit deeper past the sound, we have to talk about her branding, because her branding has been the big mystery and is really why everybody is talking. Now, I've seen people and audiences divided on her rebranding. This is Addison before and after. Okay, and it does give a very stark contrast. Now, keep in mind, to preface this whole section, people grow up. People age, people find their footing fashion-wise. That's a lifelong journey. So I don't want to hyper focus on that in an unfair way. But branding and rebranding is very intentional when you have a team. I don't want you guys to think that her rebranding is a coincidence. Behind the scenes, a lot of mood boards happening. And that's what we're discussing today. So some people say it feels forced, while the other side of the aisle says it feels fresh and natural even, proving that a lot of things are subjective. Now, with some people jokingly saying she pulled off the greatest rebrand in history. Addison has shifted into like this avant-garde, artsy, vintage aesthetic. To some, it comes off as a marketing ploy rather than a genuine interest shift. And people have thrown out the word cringe quite often to describe her aesthetic, right? Whether it's like the smoking cigs from her foot, to the red carpet fashion choices, to some of the promo imagery. And I'll say this from a personal standpoint, in the nicest way possible, this imagery does not resonate with my taste personally. Like, I don't look at that and think like, oh, she's taking it. But that's me. I mean, in a Vogue interview, they coined the term Addison core. Mel Otenberg, the creative director behind her Diet Pepsi music video, said that Addison core is very healthy, fun, and energetic, which is interesting to say the least, but something about it does feel showy. Again, her digital footprint is so stamped that when you just have a perception of somebody for so long, there is a natural apprehension to be met, especially when that image is like in such a stark contrast to who she was before. Like, she was never that TikTok kid that was like grungy or like edgy. Like, she wasn't even in that stratosphere at all. But for that video, they actually discussed referencing Madonna, Marilyn Monroe, Brooke Shields, with people like Kate Moss and Cindy Crawford on the mood board. When there's so many references that are being thrown out when you actually kind of watch interviews and kind of their creative process, effortless wouldn't be the word that I would personally use. I think there's a lot of strategic inspiration there, and it'll take some time to find her signature. But I can't deny that this rebrand has worked for some people. I can't discredit that. Her first single's creative direction was more on brand from what people would expect, hence probably why it was clowned so much. The trendy tops, the over-the-top dance moves, misplaced dance moves, and still giving the girl next door. It didn't really have any pop star aura. Now, Diet Pepsi branding-wise is where she really began to edge it up a bit. The music video alone vastly contrasts from Obsessed, right? Punchy one-off shots, very avant-garde poses, carefree movement, kind of weird, silly takes, but that imagery has extended to her videos. And some of you guys do eat that quirky shit up. Like, some people really, really find that authentic, but people are lauding her now for how authentic and non-try-hard this imagery feels. And I chalk it up to taste at this point. I mean, there's comments saying, y'all, her vibe is just so top tier. Someone saying, not sure how to explain it. Her presence is sexy, but it's not sexualized and doesn't feel cheap. It feels natural and human. And being seen with Charli XCX's crew, which lives in this like carefree, rugged party girl space, and being on the Von Dutch remix, this has been key for her career. People have found this as a legitimate cosign or acceptance of her to adopt this aesthetic. Charli has always been more forward-thinking and risky when it comes to her pop music and imagery. We can look at Brad. Not so cookie cutter, a bit wild, crazy, spontaneous, words that people wouldn't have naturally associated with Addison. So her being under this mentorship with Charli XCX has helped legitimize her efforts in that direction.
Without her, I definitely wouldn't have had the confidence to write Diet Pepsi and Aquamarine, because she put a lot of trust into me whenever we wrote Von Dutch Remix. And so that was a really big game changer for me when she kind of just said to me, I trust your taste and your vision, and I want to hear what you have to say. I think when you trust people's tastes around you, it's always a safe space. And also, they have so much credibility in time and creating things that surpass what people are expecting.
And I do think that more mainstream audiences have began liking this grungy, like party feel desaturation that Charli has brought to the mainstream this past year. But for my taste, some of this is starting to kind of feel the same. Y'all see somebody's liking this, now everybody wants to have like desaturated videos, electro pop. Everybody wants to do like this rugged, cool girl, avant-garde imagery at the same time. Mind you, I'm really like this R&B girl at heart, so I can do electro pop here and there, every blue moon, like the synth pop, but after a while, like it's it all kind of feels samey to me. So I think that's another reason why there's only so many I can digest at once. And also, people have criticized her public appearances, saying it felt forced, specifically in her VMAs interview, red carpet interview. A lot of people were commenting like something feels kind of like off.
You have to be good friends enough to eat ice cream from someone's feet, so.
You absolutely do.
Right? Would you do it for me?
Will I do anything for you, girl? Who are you most excited to see perform tonight?
Chapel.
Oh my God,
I'm really
everyone
excited
wanna
to see Chapel. Sabrina. Oh my
Yes.
God. Honestly, everyone. Camila. All of them. All the girls.
Yes.
Carol G. I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm waiting.
It feels like she's trying hard. Well, then it was like split 50-50. People were like, oh my gosh, she's so cute. She's so endearing. It's so fascinating to me that there's people who are so visceral. But let's be honest, that contributes to their success, right? That's like a superpower to be that visceral. So I don't think that these comments particularly affect her, right? Signaling that she's going to stay on this path. And I do think as a creative, it's important to drown out the noise. But as far as her fashion choices and aesthetic, the industry is eating it up. I mean, she's landed a Vogue cover and a Rolling Stone cover. And actually her Rolling Stone cover says, "The Queen of TikTok is coming for pop." So for major music publications to stamp that and to note their cosign is a pretty big deal. Now, what I do find interesting is that Obsessed is still her most viewed video. But the difference is that most of the comments for her Obsessed video were talking about how cringe it was, versus Diet Pepsi, I believe, has 21 million views. The comments were flooded with genuine shock and flattery. I think Obsessed proves that outrage and curiosity can drive viewership no matter the quality. I don't even think that's a controversial statement. But I think there's no denying that the branding shift has worked successfully this far in the last year, whether it connects with you or not. The proof is in the pudding. Lastly, I think the main internet pitchfork has been the new pop girl pushback. For some time, people have began to try to solidify names of this new generation's pop lineup. Sabrina Carpenter being up there, Olivia Rodrigo, Billie Eilish, Chappell Roan, and Tyla. Those have been like names that seem to be consistently agreed upon. While a few floaters have fought to have their official breakthrough. Tate McRae, we talked about her in the last video, who I think is finally starting to solidify her spot. Madison Beer, Gracie Abrams, and on the lowest portion and lowest tier of that list, Addison Rae. A new subject of this conversation that has received a lot of pushback, especially considering that there are artists like Tinashe who have been out for a decade, right? A decade plus, and has still not really been considered in that main pop girl conversation. For a while, I'm sure people even wondered if this was just a cash grab, right? And with many TikTok kids or social media personalities moving on to the next thing or big opportunity, can you blame people for not like immediately jumping on the bandwagon? And being transparent, I have fallen into this critique group. When there are artists who sleep, eat, and breathe music or their craft or passion, hustling their way to the top for years, I'm not always eager to go all in for people who find that passion, which seems to be overnight. And that could absolutely be an assumption. I don't know her life. I'm not in her brain. She could have been wanting to do this the whole time. I can't tell you confidently what her intention was, but it's honest. And now you may say good music is good music, right? Like, who cares if it happened quick for her? You guys are trying to play this hierarchy politics too much. If you like music, like it. And that's valid, right? Like, everybody's story is not the same. Some people, they have an easier path, right? And I think she's one of those people, despite all of the scandals, etc., she's been in rooms that people could only dream of. And she's even said it herself, like, you shouldn't have to follow the rules.
I've actually dealt with a lot of people saying, you don't deserve to do this, or you shouldn't do this, or this isn't the way that it happened. This isn't the way that it's supposed to go. You have to do X, Y, Z before you do this. If anyone can take away anything from me or my career, it's kind of just like, there are no rules.
And I think that's a decent message, right? To not follow the rules. But the perception with her is that a lot of things happen for her quite quickly in life and easily from the outside looking in. But everything that happens quick, guys, does not always mean long lasting or impact. And that could also be said for the flip side. So I say to give it some time. Hard work, passion, talent, and hours put in is important to me personally as a consumer. Doesn't have to be to you, but to me it is. So without an album or a larger discography, I do think it's premature to add her name to these conversations so confidently. When her album drops, that could be a different story, right? There's more of a body of work to base things off of. But 4 singles and a 4-song EP isn't enough for me to personally put her into that conversation. That should not be controversial, while it also doesn't mean that she'll be banished forever. And I do think that fans are eager to put people's names in conversations quite early, when in reality, Rome wasn't built in a day. And a lot of the new pop girls that we're talking about have been working on their craft for years. And I'm not stripping her of that possibility, but you need more skin in the game. I think that's why a lot of music quality has gone down, because we lack gatekeepers. We're so quick to be like, you are saving pop, you are doing this, when someone has not put in the work to even say that, even if they make a couple of good songs. Like when I first started listening to Ariana Grande, I was like, oh, she's special, but I wasn't like, oh, she's the next Mariah Carey. We don't do that. You have to let people need to earn those titles, and you guys are handing them out like coupons. To wrap this up, like what's the final tea? What's the final verdict, at least in my opinion? I think the silver lining for Addison Rae is that she's always stirred up a level of conversation and controversy. This works for pop music. Her continuing to push the envelope will garner more buzz. But one of the most flattering comments that I see on nearly every new music video that she does is, quote, I did not expect to have Addison on repeat. Can't believe that I like Addison Rae. The underdog space isn't a bad one to live in, right? When people expect you to be bad and it's actually decent or good, people are inclined to point that out. So maybe even giving you a bigger pass, which ultimately helps boost you. So in her case, I wouldn't even take that as a backhanded compliment. I would ride that wave till the wheels fall off. And despite her aesthetic or sound not fully being my taste, I think she should stick to this world and sonic theme she's built. It's working for her. But doing research into her music finally for this video, I was shocked. Watching her videos in succession, there's growth and identity being born, which is important no matter what. Do I think that there is an itch for you guys to accept certain people into the pop space while giving an increasingly hard time to other artists? Yeah, I think it's very interesting how you guys kind of pick and choose who to give passes to. Talk about how you guys expect a lot from certain people who look like this, but when it comes to other people who look another way, you guys are so ready to throw an icon label. Oh my gosh, she's eating. Yeah. Rather than letting things play out. Greatness takes time. Point blank, period. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. There's something about Addison Rae. So I think I want to treat this video too as like an open forum, because there's still some dots that I want to connect. Who should I cover next? I had a lot of you guys request Tyla, which I definitely will do that. I just have talked about Tyla quite a few times on my channel. And I do want to give some time and attention to other artists I haven't really dedicated to. So stay tuned, stay patient with me. We will have another What Happened To video to come next week. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.